Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show, guys. Today, I am going to be talking to you guys about 5 players that are going to bust in the 2022 fantasy football season. Now, the point of this video is not to discourage you if you've drafted these players. It's essentially to get you to trade them off of your roster immediately before the season starts, before people see that they're going to bust and you're not able to trade them away, right? Because all of these players that I'm going to mention still have value in a lot of people's eyes, and you can get somebody way better in return if you execute a trade. So trade these guys off your roster if they're included here on my list. If you haven't drafted already and you have one of those, last second drafts, make sure to fade these guys in the draft. I have very good reason to believe that they're going to bust. All right. The first player on my list is going to be Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek Hill has only had one season in the NFL where he's had over 100 receptions. Now, that was last season. Obviously, this gets made up for by the fact that he has tremendous big playability, the best big playability of pretty much any wide receiver in the NFL, any player in the NFL. I mean, for goodness sakes, this dude is a big play waiting to happen. 3 out of the past 4 seasons, he had chunk plays of 75 yards or more. This dude can make huge plays happen like the best of them. But there's a huge problem here. Transferring from Kansas City to Miami, the most obvious reason is there's terrible quarterback. I mean, it's just the worst quarterback downgrade I've ever seen in my life. Going from Pat Mahomes to Tua, you're going from arguably the best quarterback in football to probably right now at this stage in his career, a bottom 7 quarterback in the NFL. Okay, so couple that with the fact that you have Jalen Waddle to eat up all the underneath targets in this offense. Tyreek Hill is known for, catching the deep ball, but he ate underneath a lot more often than people realize in Kansas City. He ran a lot of intermediate routes and was just very dangerous in really any part of the field. Now Jalen Waddle is going to take away a lot of his short and intermediate routes because Jalen Waddle is going to be a target hog this year. So he's going to lose receptions there. So his overall reception count is going to be down significantly because of that. And we know that Tua has no chance in the world of throwing Tyreek Hill the deep ball as efficiently as Pat Mahomes. So now that big playability is limited because of that. And to add to this, we know that the touchdown upside is going to be way down, guys, way down. It's not going to be close to what it was in Kansas City. So we've got severely limited touchdown upside. We've got, big playability that isn't going to be nearly what it was in Kansas City. And Jalen Waddle is going to siphon away the shorter targets away from Tyreek Hill. So he literally has nothing going for him in this offense. It is the worst downgrade I've ever seen. This is going to be one of the biggest busts in all of fantasy football. Guys, if you have Tyreek Hill and you made the mistake of taking him too early in the draft, trade him off your roster immediately while he still has value, according to other people. Next on my list is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. Now, this is going to be another massive bust. We can first start by looking at how much better the backup running back is than the starter, okay? Tony Pollard averaged 8.6 yards per reception last year to Zeke's 6.1. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry to Zeke's 4.2. These are astronomical differences. I mean, that's the difference between, top efficiency in the league and not very good running back efficiency. 4.2 yards per carry is, it's not that great. Okay, so combine this with the fact that if you look at the chunk plays, Tony Pollard saw 100 less carries than Zeke last year and had 8 plays of 20 yards or more, whereas Zeke only had 5 plays of 20 yards or more. So on 100 less carries, Tony Pollard almost doubled the chunk play percentage for the running backs in this offense. So we're looking at a significantly better backup. Now, we all know that the Dallas Cowboys are kind of stubborn sometimes. They really fail to adjust in a lot of situations. And, the fact that Tony Pollard isn't the starting running back in this offense already kind of just is a perfect example of that. So, I just don't understand what the Cowboys are doing. Why in the world is Zeke still the starter? But the only positive thing that Ezekiel Elliott gives you is touchdown upside. I mean, he's playing in what's going to be a high-scoring, fast-paced offense that's going to give him goal line carries. But outside of that, I mean, look, Tony Pollard's going to be eating into his workload from the beginning of the season. Even to start the year, it's going to be a 60-40 split with carries, so he's not going to get true running back one workhorse volume. We know that the efficiency numbers are down. The ability to create huge plays are down. So on any given week, if he doesn't get in the end zone, he's going to provide a complete dud for fantasy. This guy is going to bust in most weeks unless he gets extremely lucky and falls in the end zone 2 or 3 times in a given week. You don't want to have to rely on that, okay? So Ezekiel Elliott is going to be a massive bust, guys. The running back running behind him needs to go ahead and take over this backfield. I don't know when that's going to happen, but even while Ezekiel Elliott is the starter, he isn't going to provide you nearly good enough fantasy numbers to justify being taken in the third round. Next player on my list is going to be Najee Harris. Now, a lot of people are going to hate this one because they're going to be upset about it because, look, if you have Najee Harris on your team, we pretty much all know that you took him in the very first round of the draft. And a lot of people told you to do that. And so, okay, I'm going to have to disagree with a lot of people here. I mean, Najee Harris averaged 3.9 yards per carry last year. 3.9 yards a carry. That is absolutely terrible. Okay, we knew coming into the league that he doesn't have top-end speed, which, as we know, with fantasy running backs, if you don't have top-end speed, that's going to limit your big playability. Okay, so the big playability was limited coming into the league. We already knew that. And in a large sample last year, with the ridiculous amount of volume that Najee Harris got, all those checkdowns from Big Ben, that ridiculous amount of carries that he received, the biggest play that he produced was a 37-yard run. Think about that. He got more volume than almost anybody in fantasy football, and the biggest play he produced was a 37-yard run. This is absolutely pathetic. The yards per carry are pathetic. We're going to have Mitch Trubisky starting for the Steelers this year. Will he check down to Najee Harris as often as Big Ben did? Probably not, because Mitch Trubisky hasn't shown to be a good NFL quarterback, but we know he's younger and he still has the ability to throw the ball downfield. Ben Roethlisberger couldn't throw the ball downfield to save his life towards the end of his career, so naturally he was checking down to Najee on every other play. Mitch Trubisky is not going to do that nearly as often as Big Ben did. He's going to be throwing down the ball down the field more often, meaning there will be less checkdowns to Najee Harris this year, so his passing volume is going to be down. His rushing volume is probably going to be pretty similar to what it was, but we're talking about a player that has no touchdown upside because the offense probably still isn't going to be very good. He's shown to have absolutely zero big playability whatsoever. And, he's still playing in a suspect offense. I mean, nothing is going for this guy. I don't understand why he's being drafted in the first round, other than the fact that he's going to receive a ridiculous amount of rushing volume. He's going to see a ton of rushing volume. Even though he's not going to see as many checkdowns as he did last year, he's still going to see good passing volume. But overall, volume alone is not nearly enough to justify getting drafted in the first round. This guy is going to be a massive bust, according to his ADP. Now, I still think he's going to put up some pretty decent fantasy numbers just because he touches the ball so freaking much. But when I'm saying he's going to bust, I mean he's going to bust according to his ADP. He is not going to return first-round value. Okay, next player on my list is going to be Cam Akers. Now, this is a guy who averaged 4.3 yards a carry in his first season in the NFL. He played 13 games last year, showed to be a pretty talented runner his first year in the league. We saw him in the playoffs last year, did not look very good, wasn't able to break tackles. He wasn't breaking tackles as well as he was his first season. Look, this guy's coming back from an Achilles tear. When was the last time somebody came back from an Achilles tear and was actually good? It simply doesn't happen. This is one of the most devastating injuries that anyone can have in the NFL. And the odds of somebody coming back from an Achilles tear and being good are very slim. So look at that to begin with. Now, what we can also do to gauge running back production in the Rams backfield is look at what did Darrell Henderson do last year? Last year, Darrell Henderson did not have a single game where he ran the ball for more than 100 yards. Obviously, two different running backs. I'm not saying that Cam Akers is going to do the exact same thing in this offense as Darrell Henderson did last year, but the way that the Rams run their offense doesn't really provide their running backs much opportunity to have 100-plus yard games. They pass the ball often, and they are a pass-first attack that is absolutely loaded with pass-catching weapons, and that's just the way that they run their offense. Their running backs are not going to see a lot of 100-plus yard games. You pretty much have to rely on the running back to fall into the end zone to get good fantasy production. In fact, the only times that Darrell Henderson had good games last year were the weeks where he fell into the end zone. So, you can't really rely on a Rams running back to get you 100-plus yards. So we're talking about touchdown-dependent running backs, and we're talking about a touchdown-dependent running back that is coming back from an Achilles tear, which nobody really ever comes back from at 100% capacity. So I don't trust Cam Akers whatsoever this year in this Rams offense. I think he's going to be a massive bust according to his ADP. I think he's going to be an overall bust. I honestly, quite literally, just think he's going to suck. All right, last player here on my list is going to be Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson is one of those guys. He's one of the best athletes in the entire NFL. He's extremely fun to watch. Everybody that's a football fan likes Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar Jackson. I'm not trying to hate on the guy, but he's got no passing weapons. And we're talking about a quarterback that looked absolutely terrible last year as a passer, when he had a clean pocket, he had one of the worst passer ratings in the entire NFL. This dude could not throw the ball last year. Now, I've seen him pass the ball well before. I'm not saying that he can't bounce back and pass the ball more efficiently this season, but last year he at least had a true wide receiver one to throw the ball to in Marquise Brown for at least a little while. And, you know, what happened? He still had an absolutely terrible passer rating. Marquise Brown produced some pretty good fantasy numbers, but Lamar Jackson's passing efficiency last year was terrible. And that was with a true wide receiver one. Rashad Bateman is not a true wide receiver one. He's the wide receiver one in Baltimore, but he's not an actual wide receiver one. So with Bateman being Lamar Jackson's best passing weapon, I don't expect the passing numbers to improve all that much. So then you might come back and argue with me, well, hey, he's an incredible rushing quarterback. Well, I agree. But one, rushing quarterbacks do not last long, okay? As their career wears on, they become less and less efficient running the ball every single season. I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson won't run efficiently this year. I'm sure he's going to have more than his fair share of massive plays on the ground. But, you know, you've got to figure that this year and especially in the following years to come, this guy's rushing efficiency will start to steadily decrease. And his rushing volume will decrease as well as his efficiency decreases. And on top of that, this offense is going to be very one-dimensional this year. I mean, the best pass-catching weapon in the offense is Mark Andrews, okay? Teams are going to be stacking the box to stop Lamar Jackson from running all over them because they know that that's the only weapon in this offense. So considering the terrible passer rating from last year, considering the fact that he doesn't have a wide receiver one to throw the ball to, considering the fact that, you know, you can only run efficiently for so long as a quarterback and beat teams with your legs single-handedly for so long. And, you know, the fact that this is going to be a one-dimensional offense, for all of these reasons, I absolutely hate Lamar Jackson this year. I think he's being drafted way too highly. Why would you not just fade him and draft Trey Lance later, a quarterback that's going to give you the same rushing upside and has way more passing weapons and is younger? When you are targeting rushing quarterbacks, you want to target youth. Okay, Lamar Jackson's been in the league longer. His rushing efficiency might not be as good this coming year as it's been in past years. We know that Trey Lance has fresh legs. He's young. He's going to run the ball extremely well, and he's got 10 times more passing weapons. He's on a way better team overall that's going to score more points and more fantasy points. Why not just fade Lamar Jackson early in the draft and just draft Trey Lance later? All right, guys, those are my 5 players this year that are going to bust. If you've drafted these guys, no big deal. Trade them off your roster now, though. Trade them now while they still have value in other people's eyes. And, you know, if you have some drafts upcoming, make sure to fade these guys in the draft. They're going to bust. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning into the video. I will catch you later.